You're awake before dawn 20,000 years ago. A child depends on you, and before the sun climbs, food must be found, tools repaired, fuel gathered, and the entire camp may move before sunset. Every bundle you lift weighs dozens of pounds, every journey demands endurance, and nobody is delivering dinner. There are no weekends, no grocery stores, no machines waiting to make life easier. This is simply what survival feels like. Now imagine doing this every day from childhood. What kind of body would that create? Most people picture prehistoric men when they imagine raw strength. But what if some of the strongest skeletons archaeologists have ever examined belonged to women? That question sounds almost modern, yet it reaches deep into humanity's past. Over the last few decades, new analyses of ancient bones, burials, and activity patterns have forced researchers to reconsider assumptions that once seemed obvious. Not because every woman hunted or every man filled the same role, but because reality rarely fits neat stories. The evidence is more surprising than a simple reversal of stereotypes. Instead, it reveals lives shaped by constant movement, cooperation, adaptation, and extraordinary physical demands. To understand why this question became controversial in the first place, we have to ask where our mental image of prehistoric women even came from in the first. For generations, many people imagined prehistory through paintings, museum dioramas, and textbook illustrations. Men charged after mammoths. Women waited quietly beside caves, tending fires and children. Those images felt authoritative, but they often revealed more about 19th and 20th century assumptions than Ice Age reality. Today, archaeologists are far more cautious about projecting modern social expectations onto people who lived across vastly different landscapes, climates, and cultures. Prehistoric societies stretched over tens of thousands of years and multiple continents, making sweeping conclusions risky. There probably was never one universal division of labor. Instead, researchers increasingly combine isotope analysis, ancient DNA, microscopic wear patterns, and biomechanical studies to reconstruct individual lives. Each technique adds another piece of the puzzle, sometimes confirming old ideas, sometimes overturning them. The part almost nobody talks about is that bones remember how people lived. They record years of repeated movement, strain, recovery, and adaptation. They cannot tell us everything, but they preserve clues that written history never could. Suddenly, forgotten lives become measurable, and familiar assumptions begin to crack. If bones preserve the story, then we need to travel back into the environments that shaped them, where survival demanded relentless adaptation from nearly everyone, every single day, regardless of sex, age, season, or circumstance, alike across generations. Step into the late Pleistocene, and the world refuses to sit still. Glaciers advance and retreat, seasons swing wildly, animals migrate, and human groups follow opportunity wherever it appears. Then the early Holocene brings new forests, changing coastlines, and different challenges. Survival depends on constant movement, careful planning, and remarkable flexibility. You carry infants across uneven ground, haul water, gather edible plants, collect firewood, prepare food, scrape animal hides, stitch clothing, maintain fires, build shelters, repair tools, and walk distances that would exhaust many modern people. None of these tasks happen once. They repeat day after day, season after season, year after year. Human bones are not lifeless scaffolding. They constantly remodel themselves, responding to repeated stress by reinforcing the places that work hardest. That means archaeologists can sometimes read activity patterns from skeletons alone. The body literally records its own biography. One influential study comparing prehistoric women with modern athletes found exceptionally robust arm bones among some early farming populations. Researchers have argued that years of grinding grain, carrying heavy loads, digging, and repetitive tool use could build upper body strength rivaling or exceeding many elite rowers today. That does not mean every prehistoric woman looked the same, nor that every society demanded identical work. Climate, culture, technology, and local ecology all mattered. Still, one lesson remains. Your gym gives you an hour. Prehistory gave you a lifetime. Strength was not a hobby. It emerged from necessity, accumulated through countless ordinary actions repeated until they shaped muscle, bone, and endurance together. And when scientists began measuring those bones instead of simply imagining their owners, the results became surprisingly difficult to ignore. But physical labor alone doesn't explain why some discoveries surprised archaeologists so much. The biggest surprises emerged when burials themselves refused to match the expectations researchers carried into the excavation. Sometimes, the evidence challenged assumptions so deeply that entire narratives required careful reconsideration rather than simple reversal or certainty. Layer 1. Strength was survival. At first glance, the explanation seems almost obvious. In prehistoric societies, survival rewarded capability, not appearance. It didn't matter whether a task looked. Archaeology has a habit of surprising the people who practice it. Sometimes the biggest discovery isn't a new skeleton. It's realizing we misread the old ones. For decades, archaeologists often identified burials by the objects buried beside them. Weapons suggested a man, ornaments or certain tools suggested a woman. Those educated guesses sometimes proved correct, but newer methods revealed important exceptions. As osteological analysis improved and ancient DNA became more common, several individuals originally classified as male were re-identified as female. The grave goods had shaped expectations, and expectations had shaped interpretation. One of the most discussed examples came from the Andes, where a roughly 9,000-year-old burial containing big game hunting tools was interpreted as belonging to a young woman. The finding sparked energetic debate. Some researchers argued it pointed toward broader participation in hunting. Others urged caution, noting that one burial cannot define every prehistoric society. That caution matters. Human cultures differed enormously across time and place. Some groups may have divided labor differently than others. Evidence must be weighed carefully, not forced into either extreme, that only men hunted or that everyone always did everything equally. This detail changes how you see the whole story, not because every woman hunted, but because certainty turned out to be much rarer than people thought. Once researchers questioned their assumptions, older collections suddenly became worth another look. Bias can influence excavation, cataloging, and interpretation long before conclusions reach a textbook. Asking different questions often uncovers different answers, even when the evidence has been sitting in museum drawers for decades. Even if labor and hunting explain part of the picture, another hidden factor shaped prehistoric strength every single day. It rarely leaves dramatic weapons, yet it demanded astonishing endurance and helped entire communities survive through constant cooperation. Understanding that overlooked burden brings us closer to the full human story, where strength was measured not only by what people carried, but by whom they layer three. Motherhood, cooperation, and invisible labor pregnancy alone demanded extraordinary energy. Childbirth carried serious risks. Breastfeeding required thousands of additional calories over time, and infants rarely stayed in one place. They were carried, comforted, protected, and fed while daily work continued. Without roads, strollers, hospitals, or supermarkets, raising children meant combining constant movement with relentless responsibility. Gathering, cooking, repairing, teaching, and caring happened together, not as separate jobs, but as one continuous system of survival. Anthropologists often describe humans as cooperative breeders. The idea is simple. Children survived because grandparents, siblings, relatives, and unrelated allies all helped. The strongest survival technology humans ever invented wasn't a spear. It was cooperation. That cooperation also spread knowledge. Which plants were safe, how to preserve food, shape tools, treat injuries, or calm frightened children could determine whether a community endured.